All right, that one was different, boys. Leafs talk. JD Bunkis, Sam McKee, and Justin Bourne. Yeah, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety tonight. I think that there's going to be a lot of high fiving, some nice text messages, a lot of people saying that they never left the bandwagon, however you want to put it. Good one for the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight. Justin Bourne, what was the story of the game to you? It was a busy one.
Yeah, I mean, certainly all the takeaways are good. God, it was just really nice to not made to be look like an a-hole. Like all year long, talking about this team and all the things they do well. They executed pretty much all that. So the story of the game, I think for me is Tampa Bay's exposed D. You know, their D going into that game, it was like it's like McKee was saying, if they lose tonight, it's one of the worst losses in Leafs history. They
Yeah.
took advantage. Their big guys were their big guys. Marner did his thing. Riley was great. Tavares gets a hattie. They took advantage of what was a soft spot in Tampa's lineup.
Dude, Sammy, you were full panic mode before this game. Like I know that I was nervous. I did a show where the producers were coming in during my podcast this morning going, "You're a bit of a roller coaster ride here. It feels like you're talking that you're confident, then you keep ending the segments like all sour." But yeah, you were in full high alert. This is the Leafs. They're dead to you mode if they lost tonight's game. Oh, Sammy, I don't hear
Well,
you.
Sammy, you're muted, pal.
Yeah, you're muted. Your
It's like
mic isn't working. You're not up. All right, McKee, we'll wait for your mic to get going back here. But yeah, Bourne, I think you're right. That the biggest thing for me tonight was Tampa was vulnerable and Toronto didn't screw around with it. They
yeah.
jumped on them early. Their core players showed up in a huge statement game. I saw a tweet from someone today. I can't remember who it was. It might have been the Oak Leafs account where it was like, hey, a lot of the conversations about depth are nice, but it'd be great to have a game where you don't even remember who's in the Leafs bottom six because the top guys showed up and just
Yeah.
absolutely dominate. And like that was the story to me tonight, was how the core just really owned this game from basically the very first shift where Marner draws the penalty and then scores on the power play to Morgan Rielly having what I think goes in as his greatest game as the Toronto Maple Leafs so far. Obviously,
Yeah.
these guys are judged by what they do moving forward here and how they close out games. But for Morgan Rielly, there's just like no doubt about it. This was a legacy game for him, for me. And again, for the core, I don't know how much more you could ask for other than like a Matthews goal outside
Yeah.
of what they gave the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight.
Yeah, you're right about Riley and not, to go away from that point because it's a really good one and an important one. I just
Mhm.
thought that the change they made with the lines was massive for them. Like spreading it out, Knies with O'Reilly and Achari. Mwah. Like what a line that was for them. Knies' pace and ability to use his body and take it to the net. O'Reilly was fantastic. Like it gave them another look where it challenged Tampa's depth. Sammy, we got you? Nah.
Why are you giving a thumbs up?
He's
Don't
just
do
agreeing
that.
with
Why are you
thank you, Charlie
interrupting a
Chaplin.
point with a thumbs up when your audio doesn't work? That's the worst thing you could do. Like thumbs up. Thank you,
But
contributor. Anyways,
but
you were saying,
it was really nice to see that, Keith made a tinker. Some people called him an over tinkerer. It was the right move tonight, and I just thought they got a great answer, as you mentioned, from the people who mattered to them.
so I don't want to say I'm torn on this because the coach deserves credit for making the proper adjustment,
Yeah.
but it did also frustrate me a little bit watching the lines work so well tonight. Again, a different Tampa team, a different level of urgency for the Leafs.
Yeah.
But okay, I really want to spin a lot of positives from tonight because there were a lot of them. But when Toronto comes out with like that kind of energy and that kind of jump and they're ready for the game and the lines are well balanced, and that was like the essential reason that you went out and got Ryan O'Reilly, was to have depth down the middle and basically have a bunch of matchups that worked. I did have a small twinge of where the hell was this last game? Like,
Yeah.
how are you guys not prepared for the Stanley Cup playoffs given who you are as a group? Like, you're not the Tampa Bay Lightning. You don't get to take the first game off. You don't get to show up here in the second game and just dominate the way that you do and go, oh, right, actually, everything that you assumed as a fan works. And so credit to Sheldon Keefe, but also, yeah, I watching Tavares and O'Reilly tonight on separate lines, I went, how are we actually having conversations about loading this lineup? I'm sorry. This is playoff
Mm.
hockey. You need depth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to be honest, if you're old number 58 watching from the press box after a suspension tonight, you're going, I don't know if I'm getting back in. Like, that could not have been a good feeling watching how effective that third line was, how effective Calle Jarnkrok was on the forecheck, working with Matthews and Marner. Like, I mean, I know everything went perfectly. And so much like I didn't want to overreact yesterday to a loss where I felt like they were okay in the series, try not to overreact tonight where I think it's, this doesn't mean that Leafs have it all figured out, but boy, it sure looked how you want it to look when things are supposed to go well.
Yeah. And again, I don't know how much healthier Tampa's blue line is going to get in this series. So I am reading into that and going, I think that those guys could be in trouble there. But yeah, is there any part of you that wonders, because we've had two such strong, extreme games, that we haven't actually learned a lot about the series?
Yeah. The biggest part is that there's only been, I said there's 10 minutes of play to evaluate in the first game. It's the first 10 minutes. And then after that, there's penalties and the game's over in the third period. This game's not that different where the Leafs own the first period. The game's over halfway through. Like, there hasn't been a lot of hockey to evaluate both teams really going. So yeah, I'm not sure we know more at this point than we did going into the series. Do we have Sam's take on that?
Well, we'll see.
No,
We'll see.
not yet. But he's sure handsome listening. Thanks for being here.
You are a pretty listener. Like, there is no doubt that you are a handsome guy. I love that this is basically how it is for Sammy, the by far biggest Leaf fan on the show, who
doesn't get to talk post win,
gets finally a time for him to be positive after a nuclear meltdown 48 hours to the kiddo. And then his mic won't work when he wants to go to air and talk about the Leafs. Anyway, I think that the depth thing is at least the one thing you learn is, hey, Matthew Knies wasn't perfect tonight, but the kid can play. And by my estimation, there were two periods that really mattered. The first and the second, you can really glean a lot from. The third is a bit of a write-off, and there's a couple of things maybe from it, the physicality, whatever, that I do think are important. But heading into that period, Knies and O'Reilly, their line outshot Tampa 9-1 when they were on the ice.
Is that right?
That to me is extremely meaningful for the way that this series is going to go. There were a couple of times I thought Knies made a couple of tough plays in his own end. Whether it was
I know the one turnover where he doesn't get it out and he just kind of backhands it to a guy. It's like, come on, you're better than that.
And he got stuck on the ice for a really long shift against one of the best lines in all of hockey, playing at their most desperate during the game. So I don't want to be overly critical of that one, but I think the fact that you really did have balance down your lineup, that it was really important that John Tavares got on the score sheet the way that he did. A guy that last year it took a little while for him to do that. A guy who had narratively been kind of wearing it a bit. Do you know that?
McKee.
There you go.
Sorry.
Sam, here's how you can start to weigh into this. Do you know how many goals Tavares had even strength in the last 18 games of the regular season?
I would say tops 3.
1.
Yeah. So not bad.
Yeah.
Someone close, I guess.
Yeah.
So I think tonight was particularly important for him to score a bunch of goals and look like John Tavares. Like, Bourne, you know this as a guy who was a goal scorer, like how much that is going to bleed into hopefully his confidence for the rest of this year. A steady player, not someone I overly worry about the mentals when it comes to this group, but still for a guy that is a goal scorer that has evaluated himself probably his whole life, gotten confidence from that area of his game, got to feel huge for the guy tonight with the hat trick.
So many people, judge these guys on their stats. Their friends, they're going, I had no points. He had this many points. It's so good for Matthews to be sitting with 4 and Marner with 6 and Riley with 4, Tavares, for these guys just to feel like we can be point per game guys and we can just play now. Sammy, your greater takeaway that we haven't got the chance to get, your thoughts.
You guys have been going for a while. I just thought that Tavares his second goal was by far the biggest goal of the game. The one where Tampa makes it 3-1. They're floating around. They're starting to change the game. There's like 2 or 3 shifts in a row where they really started to pour it on, and you were starting to feel like you were heading into the nightmare zone a little bit with a potential blown lead.
Bassey was hot.
Riley makes an excellent play to get it to Nylander. Nylander tips it towards the net, and John Tavares, head down, power move, gets the puck on his stick, makes no mistake on the backhand. I love that game from the captain tonight. It's a big time move. You go down game 1, you have your worst game of the season, and to come back. And all three were even strength tonight for his goals.
No,
The one was power play.
Power play. The last one was power.
The last one was power play. Yeah, but to have two even strength goals like what you laid out, it's just a massive performance from the captain. So I was just really, really happy for the guy because he takes a lot of heat.
So I have the exact same thing underlined, boldened, and in italics in my notes is the game feels like it's tipping right when you were talking about that. And again, statement from the core. It's Morgan Riley, it's William Nylander, and it's John Tavares that puts it away. And maybe this is where we flip into a little bit deeper of a dive on Morgan Riley's play tonight, because I do think that as awesome as Tavares' game was tonight, you know, he has a hat trick that in my mind, when I think back on this game, if this game ends up meaning something, Toronto ends up winning a series, it's hard for me to think that I won't remember this as the Morgan Riley game. Bourne.
You know, I think you're right. You know, it's a pivotal moment in the series. If they go down 2-0 at home, they're probably dead to rights, and getting that showing is crucial. What I thought was so good from Riley was picking his spots, right? Like, and really skating. So not forcing it. You know, he took it around wide. He was patient with it. What Riley showed in this game, I thought was an underlying theme from a lot of their best players, from a lot of their team in general, where the game before we saw forced plays, rushed plays. I thought he took the extra half second to look to find, like, for Tavares to get separation on the faceoff goal, he needs to get those steps back. And so he doesn't force the puck into traffic. He waits for Tavares to gain that room. And so it was kind of the theme. And then, you know, a couple of the plays, how smart he was, the pass he makes to Nylander where he whips it across, but they're a man up. So if it gets picked, it doesn't matter. Yeah, this one here is where he waits for him to pull back to get the room. Really good poise. Just, yeah, really savvy, intelligent game. Moved his feet, used his head.
Yeah, I think we're getting to the point now with Morgan Riley.
Sorry.
Ooh, no, you're good. Gorgeous pass.
That pass was to me his play of the game.
Yeah.
And this shot by Nylander. Nylander kind of owns Vasilevsky. Scores on him a lot, it feels like.
He makes it on him. He's just like, he sees him. I don't know if it's because Vasilevsky leaves so little of the net and he can actually put it into those areas, but you're right.
I don't know.
He's had some picks.
Yeah. I don't know who leads the league in goals against Vasilevsky, but you know, it's got to be close to Willie. Feels like he scores on him a lot. But just to go back to Morgan Riley, it's kind of getting to the point now with Morgan Riley about, you know, the regular season conversations, and we talk about him and we go through these long stretches where, you know, we worry about his play. And I know they've only played 7 games in the last 6 years or 7 years. And I understand that it's a joke that a lot of people can make about them, but Morgan Riley is full value every playoff that the Leafs have had here. And this is just another sort of win for them where he's been one of their key contributors. You think about the big goals that he's scored for them in the first round series they've played. And this is just, like you said, another signature game for him in the playoffs where really he just set the tone for them. So it's a conversation that we always kind of have to remember when we're going through the doldrums of a regular season, when he's having off nights and he's quiet and you're worried about him. He really does seem to rise to the occasion in these big games for the Leafs. And I'm really happy to see him have this performance tonight.
He's the longest tenured Maple Leaf.
Absolutely.
You could feel his presence tonight. This was, again, as much as this is about the entire core, this guy has been here from the very beginning of it. Tavares joined. The younger guys were staggered at different points.
Yeah.
Like, this was where there's always been those murmurs about, for a while there were anyways, not this season because he really struggled. He got the contract, and that's the kiss of death in this market where you get a bunch of money and then the first year seems to be a struggle season unless you're Tavares and everybody just piles on you all year long. There's one thing that has been a through line of his career is a lot of people think that he should have been the captain because of just the way that he plays the game and his care level. Someone who every single time they've had exits, I know it sounds weird to say this, but this is all we have here in Toronto. So if you're watching this from a different fan base, you're like, what the hell are you talking about? But he always seems to have the pulse of the room whenever they come to him in major spots. He speaks openly and honestly. And Sam, you and I had that conversation a million times this year of, hey, his season is going poorly, but you just feel like he's going to show up in the playoffs. And I thought that tonight he created a ton of space for others and he took away space from his opponents and he played with just a ton of energy, a ton of speed, and was absolutely brilliant. So yes, I do think this was a legacy game for him. And I think it was a massive moment. Yes, a game for two guys that have been defined this season by their contracts, and John Tavares and Morgan Riley, a reminder of like, this is why you really pay them, is to have them show up in these moments.
Yeah. And it was just this decisive decision making, like Bourne laid out. And when Morgan Riley's at his best, that's just what he was doing tonight. So really great stuff.
You know, I got to tell you guys, if you're in that Tampa Bay coach's office and it's just the four of you listening, I don't know if you don't look around and go, I don't know what we're going to do with this D. Like, I don't know if we can win with this D. Like, you would have to have that conversation and say, how do we cover up for what we're dealing with here? Because there was a stretch of play before they make it 3-1. It's 3-0 and the Leafs are pressing, where it was as lopsided as an NHL game has been this year. It was Leafs. And I was looking at their D going, they don't have an answer on the bench. I'm curious to see how this plays out the rest of the series.
So, Bourne, can I just follow up on that point with you, though? Is like, what was the most troubling thing about Tampa's blue line there? Because you're right. It was about 9 minutes where Tampa went without a credible offensive moment, and they were just completely hemmed in their zone. But what was it particularly to you that you saw that was giving them such fits?
Retrievals. When they go back on pucks, when the Leafs put it behind their feet, they can't make a play. Like, they don't have a guy to make a little slip or to beat the first forechecker so they can skate it a little bit. Like, you know, the pressure was right on top of them. And once the breakout gets stopped, the rest of the forecheck can get in position and F2 can get above the wall. F3 can get above the center. You just have to stop the forecheck, and they couldn't get their breakout moving for that stretch. And if you're the Leafs, that's it. Like, if you can win that forecheck game versus their breakout retrievals and breakouts, you're going to have the puck all night.
Yeah. They could not break the puck out at all. That Perbix he's not going to enjoy films. The film study tomorrow is not going to be an enjoyable one for Perbix.
No,
like, they're not showing him that.
They might just do that one where we just can't, we'll just highlight the positives and say, this is what we're trying to do.
But they could not break the puck out at all. The Leafs, I think, like you said earlier, I think before I was in quiet zone there when I was in the quiet room, but you have to give the Leafs credit for their tenacious forecheck, taking advantage of a decor that was clearly timid and tentative and, afraid to make a mistake, but like, they just couldn't make a breakout pass. And I think Chernak and Hedman, those two guys, are obviously their best at doing that. And that is, to me, their inability to get the puck out of the zone, like you were laying out, was the number one reason that decor struggled to work. Like, they just were horrible in their own zone getting the puck out. So it's a big story here.
6-7 last year, Hedman like snapping some passes up the ice, going back on pucks, and it's back in Toronto's end. Like, not having that is obviously significant. I wonder if that doesn't put a bit of a rush on Hedman's situation.
And last year they had Hedman and McDonough. This year is Perbix and Radish and Fleury and Bogosian, who, actually had some really hard hits tonight. Like, I was a little afraid of Bogosian when Leaf players were going into the corners and Bogosian was going in there. I was like, "Ooh, get out of there! Get abandon ship! Just get out of there! Get out of there! Stay alive!" But
retreat.
You can't tell me though, Sammy, like that moment when the Leafs were pouring it on and Vasilevsky was making a bunch of saves, and then Tampa scores that goal. Like, you're right about that being the moment of the game, the goal of the game for those guys to settle it down with having a moment, because I thought Samsonov started to get a little shaky. You felt it, the pressure in it. And boy, like, every Leaf fan in that building had to be just, tightening the butts. Like, nobody was sitting comfy in the seats. That was a lean forward moment in the game.
What's the thing that you always hear about Vasilevsky is, like, he turns it on when he wants to. Like, he turns into unbeatable mode and you can't get another one. And when it was at 3 there, it was really feeling like it was going to be 3 for the rest of the game, didn't it? Like, it was
felt like that was the story.
Boy.
Like, they made it 3-1. It's going to be this Vasilevsky went crazy, and all of a sudden it turned things around. But I will say, the Leafs are going to have to get comfortable when it's uncomfortable. You're not winning a Stanley Cup without it being 2-1, 1-0, 2-2 for stretches of play, but they just needed this one. You can worry about that later, and that fourth goal was huge to just get a win here, get back in the series. You can worry about those problems later.
Yeah, it was huge. So we talked about Tampa's blue line, tough one. I do love that Vasilevsky is such a, like, I had Curtis McElhaney on my podcast last week, and he was talking about how this guy just never gives anybody else the net ever. And I thought that this would be the one time, and of course he doesn't do it. So he must feel pretty damn confident that those extra miles on the tires really have no bearing. But yeah, I think probably the biggest takeaway from this game was just how, mentally that has to feel so big for the core that they responded, they gave their best punch, and they were rewarded with it with a ton of success against the other team's goaltender and the other team's blue line. But also, like, I just wanted to kind of close off the point about taking advantage of the blue line. I'm really glad Toronto didn't, like, they were finishing checks tonight. I thought they played good playoff hockey, but it never felt like they were reckless or trying to finish those checks a little too much or really hunting for the physical play to really test Tampa's younger players. I just felt like Toronto played within themselves tonight, right? Like, didn't this just look like the team
more
that we
poised,
saw?
way more poised.
Right. Like, this was just the team that we saw regular season dominate, mediocre to bad teams. Or if you didn't show up and have your A game and Toronto played theirs, this is what you saw in the regular season. And I just think that that's what they should be really proud of tonight, is that they didn't win a way that should be unfamiliar to them.
One thing that was a consistent theme from the regular season here is they bounce back on a game after they get embarrassed, but so did Samsonov. Sammy, you were talking about Sammy's, the other Sammy's stats in games after where he gives up 5 or whatever. He's been awesome every time.
Yeah. I think it was like 5-0-1, sub 2 goals against, 930 save percentage. Like, his bounce back games have been pretty good. There's still a couple tight B-hole moments for me with Samsonov. Like, I still don't think he looks fully formed end of the regular season Samsonov, but give him credit. He made a save early on point when it was 1-0 or 2-0. That, like, it was in this, I think it may have been on the power play. Oh yeah, you got the highlights up here. Oh, we're about to see it here maybe. Yep. But it was that comes across blocker save, and it right
really
here.
Really big save.
Bang. Right there. Massive save for the Leafs. Get him feeling like, okay, he's playing well. He's gonna be there for us. And it kind of spurred them on to go and have a good period. So even this one, Sammy,
sorry to interrupt. That one good there. That's a sneaky good save. Like, that's a one that goes under your armpit or your backup lets it in. You're like, God, come on, we need that one. I thought he was tight early when they needed him to be.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's projecting, like if it's all of us watching him and kind of expecting him. Like, there were a couple moments, I know what you're talking about, Sam, where it just felt like there was a little bit of bad rebound control, or he had a little bit of the swimminess. There was one puck in particular, like I think it was in the second, where he went to go glove it, and he just lost the puck, and it sort of fumbled out and went back out into the ice, and Tampa kind of pounced on it. Nothing became of it, but it was just this moment where he went, just don't be doing that. Don't be doing these things. But I think that the Leafs' resiliency, like talking about bouncing back, Leafs didn't lose. I wrote this down to make sure I could have this. When's the last time the Leafs lost consecutive games, not counting overtimes? So regulation, back-to-back losses. What was the month? Would you care to guess?
I bet you it's February, January.
Was it when they lost late in Boston and then again?
January 14th. So correct, Bourne. They lost.
I only know because I recently looked at this. That's insane, though.
So it just this team has, again, if we're talking about, hey, the regular season is a test for the playoffs, and how this whole regular season was meaningless. It was meaningless. Well, tonight they played their game that they played all regular season long, essentially. Which did all regular season long, and it allowed them to kind of fit in a new guy on who had played 3 regular season games and have a really good line. Their stars played the way that they did all regular season long. Their goaltender gave you some facsimile of who he was during, like, most of the regular season, making those big saves and overall, like, giving them enough to win. And then they bounced back after a loss and looked like themselves. Like, it's a damn good game. Like, that was a really good game for the Maple Leafs tonight. So, Bourne, did you have any other thoughts on Samsonov? Because, like, we can move on if you've got anything else on him.
No.
Okay, yeah. I just thought he was good, but Sam, I'm with you in the sense of when he goes on the road to Tampa, like, we're
right
still
back into the
test of what happens if the Leafs are down a goal, how they play and how he responds, and will he let in a leaky one in a big moment? Like, this was a good, let's just say this was a good start for Samsonov, right? This is the beginning to earn the trust. Bourne, like I'm sure with you and your kids, right? I just remember whenever you try to earn the trust back, like you have to start somewhere. Like you have to start somewhere. You can't get it all done in one day, but at least he started somewhere and he had a good one. I think we should talk about Mitch Marner a little bit here.
Yeah.
I thought he set the tone to the game, and I don't think it was just like the drawing of the penalty. I don't think that it was even just the first goal. I thought that in the first, when Tampa had those penalties, Marner was everywhere and he was just turning guys over. What did you guys make of Marner tonight? Sammy, let's start with you.
Oh, just excellent. Dynamite from the drop of the puck. Yep. Just regular season Marner in the postseason is what you want to see. And just like you said, it's the defensive work. It's tracking back. It's getting pucks. It's turning it north. Great on the penalty kill. Just, scoring the first goal, which we can say was an absolute softie on Vasilevsky, but it was a great, just to put it on net, have it go in. It was a great start to the game. Just get a goal, get it going for him. I loved them tonight. I know we've been talking about having bounce backs, but after what they looked like in the first game, to have him come out and look the way he did and like not look like he was shying away from contact, kind of like he was in game one, not have him look small. He just looked like himself, which is just a huge development for the Leafs if you can keep that going forward. Barney?
They just showed his first shift, and the first touch, the Leafs get it. They break it out. They give him to him at center ice. And last game, everything went in. Everything went in, and Vasilevsky stopped it. Their D picked it up, and they came back. Marner makes a rink-wide underneath pass to keep the Leafs in possession, which allows their forecheckers to keep speed, and then they're on top of the forecheck. It, set the tone to me of making a poised play with the puck, and then he sits back in the pocket, makes a pick, gets pulled down, two awesome plays in 15 seconds, shoots it in the net to start the next power play. That was, almost too good to be true start that almost never happens. And you could talk about setting the tone. That really was it for this team, and things were rolling after that. And you had the crowd in the game, Tampa on their heels. Just they didn't have to force it. Huge first shift. Hey, they started their best guys. What do you know? Good things happened.
Yeah. Turns out
shocker.
That's good. Yeah. It turns out it was funny because I did wonder if they just sat the tinkerer down and were like, just play the good players.
Put the good ones on.
Yeah.
Just put the good guys on and roll your lines and play them more than the other guys. You don't need to overthink this one. And this felt like a non-overthink moment. The only real overthink moment of the game that drove me nuts, I was texting with you guys about it, was Keefe decided to go back to the overload second line, and they got caved in and they looked slow and they got stuck on the ice. And I went, you just saw a whole game where things are going well and you just had to get in there and do the tinkering. It was like, just stay out of it.
That's, you know why I hated that? I hated that. It's because it was right for the goal that Tampa scores. And it's like, that's such a panic move where you legitimately just kick the absolute crap out of Tampa for 9 minutes, your most dominant stretch of hockey. And one goes in your net and you're like, Tinkerbell, gotta tinker, must tinker. It's like, just send him out. Just do what you were doing. That's what terrifies me about Keefe. It's like, he's got this, it snaps and he's like, I got to do something. It's like, no, you don't. You were rolling 3 lines. Keep it rolling, baby.
But by the same token, so he makes the line change to go into the game, which is good. What I liked in the first period from him is there's a couple of ways that it started funny with the line deployment, a couple of penalties, and Willie Nylander plays 1 minute of the first 12 of the game. And so after a PK, he gets him out with Matthews and Marner for a shift, tries to get him in the flow of things. Willie scored maybe not long after that. It was in the first period. I just thought it was a good awareness to recognize that one of your guys was getting screwed by the flow of the game a little bit and find a way to get him involved.
Great point.
You know what?
Because I noticed that too.
Again, this is like, if you want to learn more about Sheldon Keefe, we asked Bourne specifically because he has a book. Which is
what a friend.
Thanks, man.
And this book that I'm trying to frame very poorly that no one can actually see because I'm terrible at this, trying to speak in Justin Bourne's book, Down and Back. Bourne works with the Marlies and he worked with Sheldon Keefe. And so you can actually glean a lot from this book. I'm not going to step on anything because you should read this book. You should buy this book. It's a very, very good book. But I do feel like I know a lot more about Keefe from you. And one of the things is he is an attention to detail master, right? Like
Yeah.
he is obsessive and he wants to be in control of as much as he can. And it feels like sometimes in these games, like when we talk about the Tinkerer, he actually reminds me of a baseball manager that has a really, good team and a solid bullpen and it's set. And then they start getting cute and start to do different things because he just,
as long as he's not Dave Roberts, bud, then we're fine.
But that's it. It's like, hey, just don't overmanage the team, right? That's what they like. That's why the best managers are like the Dusty Baker types now, where they're just sitting back there spitting seeds, going like, "You guys need me, I'll be here, but just play ball, right? Go win the World Series, Astros." I know what like the overmanaging at times, Sammy. I'm with you. Like that is kind of what scares me, is where it's like
fair criticism.
I think good coaches, you should always be looking for an edge. Duh. Like you should always be trying to win and be strategical, of course. But there are these moments where, like, yeah, Sammy said it, where it just, why are you trying to cheat and find these two guys a spot when basically the entire universe can see against Tampa Bay that putting 90 and 91 together is not fast enough. And all of a sudden you look really, really slow on the ice. Like it's just, it wasn't great that moment of the game. I thought that was a really, really tough one.
Have you guys talked about Knies, Achari, and O'Reilly? Did you guys touch
just
on that?
Fawning praise generally, but nothing specifically.
God, that line, I love all the elements of that line.
Yep.
It just, it really feels like one that can mesh together and be an effective line. I love them tonight.
I'm terrified and in love with Knies. I love every time he's on the ice. I love watching him. He's exciting. I don't know what he's going to do next. That's not always great, but I sure enjoy watching him play.
Do we have Knies pack? Because can we get a little bit of Knies pack love? Because there are some plays that he makes where you go, oh my God. Like
he made
to
Herbert look like a college D-man.
I went, excuse me, this is your first playoff game and you were in college a week ago. Maybe you should chill out a little bit here. That's just brilliant. Yeah, Sammy, we talked about it a bit that he made a couple of plays in the D zone that were not all that pretty. And he definitely makes you feel uncomfortable. Again, potentially a little bit of projecting because he is so young, but ultimately, you are going to focus on this play.
Dude, and he keeps taking it, not afraid to take it to the hoop.
Yeah, no, he is not. He seems, dude, even not to play body language doctor here too much, but even when they show shots of him on the bench talking with his teammates, like he looks like he just fits in and he doesn't give a crap. Like there's a little bit of, I'm going to go second baseball reference here. Like there's a little bit of Alek Manoah to him, where Alek Manoah came up and was like, I'm the captain now. And they were like, you're new.
This is the Bronx. And he's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
He's like, where are we?
I'm a big guy and I have big man confidence and I don't care about like what you guys have been doing up here. Like this is who I am. And yeah, I feel that with Knies a little bit, where like he just doesn't look out of place really at all. But Sammy, we mentioned it, that through the first two periods of the game, his line outshot Tampa like 9-1 when they were on the ice.
That shows.
Yeah. Achari runs into everything, absolutely everything. And he's just a granite block of a guy. Like, I just love that he's their bulldozer. Riley makes smart plays. O'Reilly, great line.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, time to run through the rapid fire portion of the show, unless there are any other big picture things from this game that you guys want to discuss.
No. I have a few things, but I can I get to my Perry thing in?
Yeah, do that now.
I thought the crowd was excellent tonight, greased up, but I hated the chant. It's just such an L, the Perry thing. It's like he is inside the kitchen of Scotiabank Arena. That is his dream.
Engaged though, right? They're engaged with it.
His number one dream scenario is to have the crowd chanting his name. Like he won. He went out there. He acted like a dick. He scored a goal. He beat the crap out of Hall. Goes to the box. Gets into it with the fans, and then the fans are all chanting. What were they just going to screw you, Perry? Perry, you suck.
Perry
whatever.
Sucks, I think.
Perry. Yeah, it's like that's a bit of an L. I didn't love that.
Toronto is not exactly Premier League soccer with the songs.
Yeah.
The Perry sucks chant wasn't all that clean. I thought the fans were great tonight, although I will say that when the one fan that was right by the penalty box talking to Jeannot and pounding his chest, I was like, Dude, that's one of those moments where it's like, you guys ever see those videos of people that try to put their hands in the cage with like the monkey and the monkey reaches in and grabs their hand, and then they're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then the zookeeper has to come and people go, is Pat. I kind of am like, yeah, like open up the cage door.
Let him have it.
Yeah, let that guy feel it a little bit. Like, because when he pounded his chest, all I could think of was, yeah,
the guy falling in with Domi.
Lift the glass. Have that piece of glass
Watch
disappear.
the lawsuit, Ty.
Exactly. I thought the fans were great tonight, man.
Yeah.
I agree, Borny. It felt like they were liquored up by the end. Like people got to have a little bit of celebration time, and the booze probably was flowing in that intermission, and people were like slamming them back, getting a little ahead of themselves. And then again, once that fourth goal happened and Toronto took back like the tightness of the game, yeah, it probably felt like, hey, oh my God, we paid all these tickets. We had all this anxiety about being here tonight. I can't believe we came down and actually faced our demons and were rewarded for it. And it was just a fun crowd. I wish, Sam, if I was going to build off of your point about Perry, I wish they booed Kucherov instead, because Kucherov is the true, like, it feels like a reveal at the end. It's like, I think we can spoil Harry Potter at this point. It's like everybody thinks Snape is the bad guy, but then it's not Snape. I can't remember who it was. Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but it's not Snape. You think Snape's the bad guy. It's like, that's Corey Perry. It's like,
is it Dobby who turns Dobby's the bad guy?
No, it's Harry. It's Harry.
Harry wasn't the bad guy.
I have no idea. I don't know.
Okay, no, I've seen it once. I never read it. I'm sorry, but I know Harry Potter fans in the chat are losing their minds.
Yeah.
But like everybody thinks Snape is Voldemort, but it turns out Snape is a good guy, and that's Corey Perry. He's a good guy. I like Corey Perry. I wish he was a Maple Leaf. I wish that Goose didn't strike out and miss on that one, because God, he would have been such a good Leaf. And it did feel like Justin Hall, that was a mistake to give him a fight, when like that's Corey Perry. First of all, he's going to beat you up. And you guys see Corey Perry just yelling and cackling and gets escorted off the ice, and his teammates love that. You gave him life.
I disagreed with you guys in our group chat. Like, I like Shen fighting Janot there. I like those guys. You know, like Kip said something on Twitter today to someone who's just like, you can't hide the whole third period. Like, you're going to have to play these guys again. You know, almost better just to stand in there. Game's over anyway. God, let him have it. And we'll go back and play hockey next game, instead of having guys chasing you around going, you wouldn't give it to me yesterday. We're doing it tonight. Oh, I was just heavies.
Those two lefts. Oh my God. That's the thing with Shen.
What's the scorecard there? What's the 10-9?
I think
it's probably Janot in the end, but it's a great round.
Yeah, like
Shen had the cleanest punches, but Janot has more exchanges, and so it's a tough round to score. Like, it's a good fight, good tilt.
Yeah. But I think a lot of guys kind of forget that Shen's a lefty, and he got in there twice on the first exchange and landed two right on the button. Like, I don't think Janot's had tough as nails.
Yeah, he didn't have fun.
Dude, Janot just ate them though. Like, those two clean shots, Janot ate them, and then like he's in the box lucid. I was like, dude, I am on a different planet.
Catching my jaw with a screwdriver.
Like, how is he in there? He's holding the conversation with people. He's all frustrated. I will say, do you think his hand is a real thing there? Because it looked like he hit Shen's bucket a couple of times really hard, and the hand was pretty swollen. Like, you forget that NBA players punch like a wall sometimes, like the other day, and they're done for the playoffs. And then this guy punched Shen's helmet like 5 times, and I feel stupid even asking the question if like that's an issue.
That middle knuckle's not better than it was this morning.
Yeah.
It feels worse, that's for sure.
No, that is definitely a wake up in the middle of the night, like, ooh, you know, oh, ouchie, go and run the cold water over, and then put the ice back on and try to go back to sleep. It's not that I don't like the fights, Bourne, I guess, so much as I just think, not the run and hide situation, but the third actually was really important to me. I wrote it down in my notes at the very top of the third period. Will there be complacency? Because I think you need to keep Samsonov's confidence high and not just let them tee off on him and just get beat up. And overall, I thought that like basically the two teams went into coast mode for the first 10 minutes of the period. And then there was a little bit of the physicality. Toronto got into it. Tampa pushed a little bit more. But I just think that that's one of those ones where I'm not giving them anything. Like, I'm not giving them one positive thing to come out of that. And I just do feel like the one positive thing is Jeannot, who I didn't notice all night, all of a sudden has a moment. He's feeling like he's back in the series with a fight. And Justin Hall gets crumpled again. The poor guy is the worst fighter in the league.
Oh,
pound for pound has to be. Like, no question about it. He's got the worst 2 losses of the year on his resume. Do not Google Justin Hall, hockeyfights.com if you like Justin Hall. Like, that's not good for you.
Played good tonight.
And then, Perry gets his moment. So, again, not a major gripe. I think I want to leave there if I'm Toronto and they say, what do you have to build off of Tampa? And they go, nothing from that one.
I thought, actually, I know this is maybe a crazy thing to say on a Leafs podcast, but I thought the refs did an excellent job in the third period. I thought they really contained that game. Like, there was a chance for that to turn into a barnyard. Like, that was really floating around there where there was after that fight, the physicality really went up and stuff was getting crazy. And Eric Furlot, public enemy number 2 from Leaf fans, because he called a penalty last year one time. He started kicking guys out. Like, he shipped Maroon, shipped Perry, shipped Sergachev. He was just tossing everybody out of the game and just completely regained control of the game. And it kind of died down and it ended with a bit of a Peter. So I thought it was a good job by the refs in the third period to really gain control of that game and kind of quiet it down.
Okay.
Rapid totally fire time for me.
Yeah.
We just hit on a bunch of stuff there because of the fights as well. But the one thing that I fear in this series sometimes with Tampa's physical play is Toronto trying to match it and feel like they're not tough enough to be there if they don't respond. And I thought that one of the lowest moments of the game for the Leafs, unfortunately, was McKee taking the penalty on Perry early in the first period, where it's like you're trying to clear your front of your net. You made your point. You got him out of there. And then you take a cheap shot. And I do feel like if I'm Sheldon Keefe and I'm going in the dressing room or I'm like addressing the team and trying to make any kind of, hey, we actually need to discuss some things, it's once against this, because I did not miss Michael Bunting tonight for 1 second. And how could you? Because the Leafs, kicked their ass.
Yeah.
But the most calming thing about not having Bunting out there was I really felt like there wasn't a lot of guys on the Leafs that were going to go do something dumb. And I got to say, as good as McCabe has been, and as much as I enjoy watching his physical play, he has now taken the mantle as the does something dumb guy, I think, on the Leafs. And so at least he had a moment in a game where I thought it was meaningless and that maybe they can try to address it with him and go, we want your edge, but we don't want that.
I really like McCabe. Yeah, he's been really, really good. And so same thing, compliment sandwich for McCabe, like not taken away from him, but gap control hasn't been awesome. But yeah, that sort of, I'll be honest, what I wrote down when that happened was I wrote loser play. That's a guy who's played on losing teams and it doesn't matter. And, you just get in your shot and don't think, we'll kill this one. It's a loser play. So he doesn't make a ton of those. Really like the player. Don't think it'll happen consistently, but that play was really poor. If they had scored there, it'd have been like, what are we doing? That's a bad one.
Oh, especially given the where they were at in the game, like what was happening. It felt so tough to swallow in that moment. Sammy, you feel the same way.
And like I got a lot of messages from people being like, oh, that's a bad call, cheap call. I'm like, yeah, the refs who are calling everything, you punch a guy in the face right in front of him when he's standing on top of the crease. Yeah, it was an auto call. It was the easiest call. That happens 10 times a game. It's Corey Perry. That what he's doing, but you look at that face. How do you not punch it? That's one of his great advantages. He's just got the most punchable face. You just want to punch him in the face.
Perry has leveled up Bunting, by the way. He's super Bunting.
He is.
Oh, it's Bunting call me when Bunting scores 50 goals. Yeah. But
right.
Yeah. The phone's going to be quiet.
Let's sometimes let's just not do those things. Corey Perry's going to walk into the Hall of Fame like I don't think Bunting will be there with him someday. The fourth line tonight, they had to play, I thought, just a little bit touch more because the game script, but really solid performance from the fourth line. And I thought Lafferty particularly, like this is a guy that we were saying we need to see more from Lafferty. And I just thought that he really popped for me tonight. He gets a point, just the assist, and I think Zach Aston Reese gets the goal.
Happiest line ever when they scored. Yes. I loved it. They were thrilled.
Yeah, love that. I just think that like their line actually had a couple of moments tonight where I went, wait, they're out there against good players, and it wasn't a disaster. So good for them.
Well, that they were eating muck the whole night. Like they were going up, they were hard matching against top guys a lot of the night, and they're just like eating the muck. And you go down there and they finally get a taste of the sweet stuff and they're like, oh my God, this is so great. Like they were just so happy to score that goal. And you could just see it. They're like the peasants, they got a little treat. The peasants got a little treat and they were fired up.
Okay, this one pains me. So Giordano has an incredible fight in the game, an actual just pure passion fight. I loved every second of it.
What a man.
He's -2.
Yeah.
In a game where
I'm glad you brought him up.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's the only guy out of 18 skaters I'm worried about.
Okay.
I gap control, just he's backing way off. He looks slow to me.
Yeah. I agree. I don't really have, I don't want to
I don't want 37 in, I don't think, instead of him, but maybe, I don't know.
I don't want to be too critical of our native son Gio, but he's been by far their worst defenseman through 2 games. Like it's not even close. So I don't know what you do.
No comment at this time from the delegation from the
Well, he's definitely in game 3.
I can't do it. I don't have the heart to do it. I get it. I get it. He made that. He takes that scrap, and it's like, oh my God, that's a massive beast of a human that you've taken on here, and it's a real just passion fight where he's battling, and I just like Gio to me is just the absolute man, and so
he's the man.
I set you guys up to fail because I did not have the heart to discuss it.
Yeah.
No comment at this time.
I love on the radar of the public.
He landed a couple fadeaway punches in that fight somehow.
Yeah. And last thing I will say is like, I can't believe how maybe I don't want to jinx this, but I can't believe how good Schenn has been to me. Like Schenn tonight, just really solid. I like the best possible version of what you thought you were going to get from him. Didn't you guys think like there was going to have to be a moment where you're defending Schenn and his play and whether or not he's going to be in the series? And it's just like,
you still will. That's coming.
What?
There's still
coming. Okay.
There's going to be concerning Schenn moments, but otherwise he'd be, I don't know.
I think,
but he's been awesome.
I honestly think that this series is played at his pace, and I think when they traded for Schenn, I think that he was a big when we talked about this a lot before the trade deadline, like how much do you make trades to address the series with Tampa Bay? And to me, he was the number one trade for that, where, it's not going to be a burner series. Like you look at their roster, you think of guys who fly like Point and Colton, and they got guys that are pretty quick, but not like burners. So I think he is a matchup for this series. Maybe you get into a matchup against another team if they get past Tampa, maybe he gets played out of the lineup or whatever. But against Tampa, to me, he looks right at home, and I'm loving him through 2 games.
Yeah. Well, I think we can wrap up there unless there's anything else from you guys. I will say congrats to all the Leaf fans watching this because there's nothing like soaking in content after your team wins. Boy, just reading every article about how sick your team is. Listening to the show where everybody talks about how good your players are and how they dominated and how you felt and reliving those memories of how good it felt to win a playoff hockey game. Like, God, that is the sweetest time. This is the sweetest time, is this time. And then the next morning, and then you're back in the Thunderdome terror zone where you're thinking about all the anxieties show up. So enjoy this little sweet pocket of time that you get as fans, because I absolutely love this time. This is the golden hour of being a fan.
7-3, 7-2 after 2 games. What just happened?
And now we can go upstairs and watch stress-free late playoff hockey, which is always a treat after your team wins as well. So
all I saw was Colorado was down a goal when I came to do the show.
The Squids! Break up the Squids!
Buddy.
Man, the Oilers have a free pass if they can get by LA.
Honestly.
If the Avs choke, boy, oh boy, oh boy, all of a sudden it just feels like if you could just get to that cup final, what are you going to get there?
I see what's going on here.
You're going to get the Oilers. That's what
I'm not saying the Leafs. I'm just saying whoever comes out of the East. Like, you're just looking at it and going, boy, it seems pretty like wide open. Colorado's the only team that strikes fear in your heart, right? And anyway, I don't know what the score is right now, but you're right. I want to go watch stress-free that. Yeah. Whoever Laird decided to put both the sick NBA games on at the same time on the same night, like, you should be in jail. Like
I
hate
want to
you
watch
forever.
a Rangers game at some point here. So hopefully this schedule gets changed up.
I know
too.
this is so good. That's why yesterday was so sweet, is just doing the channel flipping, going from 4 games, just bang, 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 stress free. Oh, beautiful. Anyways, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at JD Bunkis, at JT Bourne, at Sam A. McKee. Reach out anytime. The DMs are open. And then, please share the content if you do like it. Hit the thumbs up button on YouTube for those of you that are watching live or those of you that are watching after. It really helps us out. We appreciate it. And if you're in the podcast audience and you got shared this that way, leave 5 stars or subscribe, follow, however you do it that way. All of those things, that is just like, that is all we're asking you. All right. And also the book, buy the book. Look at that handsome face. Look, 2 Bournes. What do you think, Justin?
Yesterday you asked me to promote it, and I was like, yeah, down and back. Move on.
It's on Justin's kids to eat.
It's a book. Just read it.
It's a book that you should read. And if you want Justin's kids to eat food for dinner, then you should buy it. Anyways, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you Saturday night, hockey night. See you then.
Later.